right. Welcome, Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan, here with a man whose mind is as sexy as hell and yearns to mount a dragon, euphemistically, of course. Keith, what's up, buddy?
I'm here with Dylan, and I hope you make it longer in this podcast than the Dylan in this book did.
Yeah. I was like, oh, great, there's a Dylan in this. That's always fun. Dead.
And he's dead.
Yeah. Well, here at the Buddy Book Club, we're breaking down some bestsellers, and this week we'll be discussing 2023's hit romantasy novel, Fourth Wing, the first book of Rebecca Yarros' Empyrean Series. If you'd like to recommend a book for us to read or reach out to us at past episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, slide and send us a message on X, Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please download, give us a 5-star review. You can write something terrible if you want in the comments, but 5 stars would be nice. And if nothing else, give us a follow on some social channels, please. And thank you, Keith. This was, I think, like the number 1 or number 2 book of 2024, even though it came out in 2023. So that's saying something. It was a 4.58 on Goodreads, which is astronomical, I feel like, right?
Yeah. When it first came out, it was like a 4.8. It was crazy. That's when I downloaded it initially.
Really? So she's on to her third book now in the series. I think it's slated to be like 4 or 5 books. The third one just came out in January and people are loving it. I think they're all like breaking number ones across the board, but we got to get on board as well. So we're doing Fourth Wing. Keith, I think you got a book report for us before we get into our standard categories. So do you want to fire us up?
Fourth Wing is a young adult / very adult fantasy novel. The premise is frankly right up our alley. Let me ask you something, D-Man. Do you like dragons?
Yes.
Do you like magic?
Yes, very much so.
Do you like a Hogwarts type environment with more fighting and more death?
Yes, I do.
Do you like sexual attention that goes from 0 to 100 faster than Dom Toretto?
Indeed I do. It's all about family. Oh, those things don't collide though. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
And then do you like the main character who constantly complains about being too small, too weak, not wanting to kill anyone, whilst also complaining that everyone thinks she's too small, too weak, and not lethal enough, and that she shouldn't need protection?
Not so much.
Yeah, okay, all right. If you answered yes to any 3 of those, then this book is for you. But in all honesty, this is an entry-level book into fantasy. That's what it is. It has some typical YA tropes, love triangles, lots of complaining, and has some obvious holes and flaws, which we'll probably get into. But it all is made up for with the amazing sex scene. But ultimately, this book isn't really meant for us, but I can appreciate it, and it was fun to read.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna give that an A-. That was a good
Oh, wow.
good book
All right,
report.
thank you.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time reading this book thinking, who is it for? Like, who is this book for? Obviously, this book's super popular. I get it. And we'll jump into our categories, but I just kind of wanted to say this off the top. People love it. I understand that. And I'm okay. There's lots and lots of books out there. I'm okay with books not necessarily being for me and reading them. We've read a lot of books that I don't think would necessarily be for us that we've enjoyed. And we've read a lot of books that probably were for us and we didn't enjoy. But I just spent too much time thinking I'm not exactly sure what the target market is here. Because halfway through the book, I felt, oh, this is a young adult book with swear words. And then thrusting cocks and clitorises get dropped, and I was like, whoa, hold on a second. If you saw your teenage daughter reading this, you'd be a little concerned. No, let's get into some stock up, stock down. Stock up, what do you have first?
Stock up, Know Your Enemy.
Oh.
Rage Against the Machine song featuring Maynard James Keenan, a.k.a. the Tool singer. So great live version of this out there on YouTube's if you're interested. That song, Know Your Enemy, I believe is about the American government being the real enemy. Mm-hmm. But I think Violet should have started listening to some Rage while she was in the library, because the last battle was pretty cool. There was a lot going on, pretty interesting, but I really didn't feel like it was super earned, because I had no idea who the enemy was. The whole time they're talking about griffins and some other society, and I'm like, oh, awesome. So what's all that about? They're like, yeah. I've read all about it. Like, I'm not going to explain it to you. I've been in the library. I know everything about the history. I'm like, so what is the history? They're like, don't worry about what the history is. So we get to the end, and they're like, here's the bad guys. I'm like, why are they bad? I don't know anything about the enemy. There's no history on like what they are, who they are. And so when there's this big reveal that like maybe they aren't that bad, I'm like, I didn't even know they were bad. I don't know why they're bad. You know what I mean? Like there's no like build up to like this huge bad guy that turns out to be good. So I played Dota, and there's winter wyverns is like a character. Okay. I didn't know what a wyvern was. So
I still don't.
And I played Dota. Yeah, and I played Dota. So I don't know how you're supposed to know when they just introduce this new thing that you've never heard of before.
What is Dota? Like, is that an acronym for something?
Defense Against the Ancients.
Okay, got it.
I got nerdy. Don't worry about it. The last scene I thought was great, except for the fact that I had no idea why or how or who was fighting in it.
As always, we're of like minds. One of my stock ups was Basil Exposition of Austin Powers fame. He's
been stocked up multiple times.
But he comes in throughout the story, as is the joke, to explain what's going on. He gives Austin a lay of the land, and then also, naturally, the audience. And we need the Navarian version of Basil, because in the most basic terms, what is happening here? Who are they fighting? Why are they fighting? What are these cadets like dying in training for? Okay, there's a Tirish rebellion. I can get that. Some people rebelled and it got squashed, but why did they rebel? I just need some background. And I understand it's a multi-book series. There is something to giving us a taste, but not giving us the full picture, so you can lay it out in later books. I'm okay with that. But it seemed like the stakes at hand, which are legit life and death, were not aligned with our understanding of what was going on. It's like, oh, this dragon training school is super important, but why? Oh, your sister's out fighting. Who is she fighting? Why? I know there's Griffin riders, but why are they fighting them? For land, for resources? It wasn't clear what was happening on a meta scale, which made our little story with a few people less interesting because the stakes weren't understood.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I just needed a little more, and I understood when she got the book, the classic little YA thing, and that this book of like fairy tales, similar to Beatles and Bard, was going to be an important part. The Wyvern and these made up things like White Walkers in Game of Thrones, these made up creatures were actually going to be important. So yeah, okay, I get it. Cool. I don't need a full explanation of what those things are necessarily, but the general idea of we're always at war. You're at war with who and why? What else do you have for stock up?
Not to pat ourselves on the back here, but stock up Buddy Book Club clips.
Oh.
Big stock up here. Mainly because the author, Rebecca Yarros, loved to use some of the terminology that we've used here at the BBC, specifically macabre.
Oh.
In one of our first episodes, and the first clip I made, you said you did a little bit of macabre research, which I was like, totally. I don't know what that is. I thought it was some so it was like a specialty on the McDonald's menu, like corn on the cob. Try spelling that word when you don't know how to spell it.
Yeah, I think it's French.
So for those who don't know, it means disturbing and horrifying because of the involvement with or depiction of death and injury. But she uses that a ton, which it makes sense in this book. But just wanted to pat ourselves in the back for using that. The other thing she also used a lot of was grasping for purchase.
Yeah, a lot of grasping for purchase.
I've never heard that used before, and I'm going to use it a ton now. I'm going to be grasping all over the place for purchase. I don't know what it means still. I don't even know how purchase also means like you purchase something online and you also can grab onto something purchasing it. I don't know. What does it mean?
I feel like metaphorically you're grasping for purchase now.
Thank you. Yes. I'm on Amazon looking to purchase something right now to figure out what it means. But both of those stock up and Buddy Book Club stock up.
Yeah, she had macabre used a lot, grasping for purchase, thrusting cock was used a lot.
Yeah, but that's normal. I mean, I use that everyday language anyway, so that's not that different.
My mom, randomly will, for some reason, just because she's a great mom, will listen to the Buddy Book Club.
Quite the transition. Holy shit.
No, I'm just thinking about this right now because she'll listen to a Buddy Book Club podcast here and there. And God, I hope she does not listen to this. Is worse than any other one we've done, I feel like, and it's like a YA, more on the A. It's a Y capital A fantasy book. But all right, my first stock up is The Inherent Danger of Attending Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. So we've discussed in our HP pods how Hogwarts is surely not the safest place in the wizarding world as it's often touted to be, and kids must be dying every year of magical accidents, which somehow get swept under the rug. Well, whatever happens at Hogwarts pales in comparison to Basgiath War College. Students die every day of horrible accidents or outright murder. I mean, there's an actual roll call in the morning, like when you go to camp and they tell you the activities that day, except instead they just list off the kids that died the day before. And if these two schools operated in the same magical universe, I feel like parents would undoubtedly feel much more comfortable sending their kids to Hogwarts. So that's pretty much my point. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm also wondering, I get more of a lingering question, but what kind of parent is sending their kid to this school? The odds are you're gonna die.
Violet's mom.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing that I'll get into at a different point. But just run-of-the-mill parent, you got an average kid. Cool, send my average kid to the school who's probably going to die. It's not like the Red Rising series where the kids are almost training their whole childhood to get here, and the parents...
Well, I think they are. They're doing that, because that's what her sister was doing.
Violet was just reading books. Granted, she thought she was going to be in the scribe quadrant, but it didn't seem like the other kids were that involved in like preparing for it, or at least you would assume that every kid would have a balance beam. The first challenge is the parapet.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, you think that would be the first thing they would just work on.
Everyone has a balance beam in their house, or is just perfectly balanced so that they can get past the parapet. It's like 30% of the kids just die in the parapet.
Did you also have to look up what a parapet was?
Oh,
too?
of course I did.
I still don't really know what it was. I looked up images with Fourth Wing, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it is literally a balance beam.
It's just a wall. Yeah, it's just the top. You're walking across the top of a wall. It's the wall that separates the outside world, I guess, from the War College. So you walk across this, high up top of the wall, and then watch your classmates die terrible deaths.
Dylan, specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, Dylan. Sorry. Dylan ate the dust on the parapet. What else? Did you have any other stock-ups?
Last one, quick one. Stock-up Storm from X-Men. Do you know what happens, D-Man, to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
No, tell
me. The
the
same thing that happens to everything else.
Yeah, X-Men OG. Yeah, that's
that's
the first X-Men movie. I remember that.
She's just Storm, right? Violet, that's what she is, right?
No, the other one is Storm. There's another...
Oh, isn't her mom control weather?
But yeah, one of them controls weather, which I also didn't understand. How is lightning so much more powerful when the other person can control weather?
Yeah.
I guess you could, accurately shoot lightning, whereas she just creates a lightning storm or something like that.
Okay. Maybe she's like a Sith/Storm from X-Men.
So the toad, doesn't he, put his tongue onto, a pole or something, and then she, zaps him? I don't remember exactly.
People make fun of it. I didn't think it was that bad. I rewatched it. I was, waiting for that when you rewatch Anakin, and he's like, I don't like sand. And you're like, holy shit, this is terrible. I can't believe it. When I rewatched that, I was like, that's not really that bad of a line. I don't think it's that bad, but people make fun of that a lot.
That storm line?
Yeah. Oh. That's one that people make fun of a bunch, apparently. Yeah, whatever. But Halle Berry's delivering it, so you're like, all right, this seems pretty good. Yeah.
And I thought that was early on in the whole superhero stuff, or this new age of superhero stuff, and I thought it was pretty good. My last stock up is Coping with Trauma.
Okay.
We had just read a book, All the Colors of the Dark, where the author shows the ripple effect of childhood trauma and how throughout your life it just kind of stays with you and, leads to so much other things. Basically just turns your life upside down. Well, looks like there's no trauma for the people of Navarre. They just don't have that in their genes. These kids are either watching the classmates fall to their deaths or quite literally stabbing each other to death after presumably living a fairly normal childhood. And as for after effects, none. I was waiting so long for someone to say, any one of these kids, any one of these characters, to pretty much just say, holy shit, this is fucked up. I'm not sure I'm cool with this, and either have some sort of mental breakdown or, I'm just thinking kind of like Red Rising, where after the initial, I can't remember what they call it when they kill everyone at the beginning, the kids kind of all sit together and they're like, what the fuck did I just do? I just murdered someone with my bare hands. This is crazy. There's human effect. These people in this story are human and they're young adults. They're killing other people. It's not like they're shooting them across a battlefield. They are stabbing them to death. Blood, gore, everywhere. And then just going on with their day and not discussing it. So I'm sitting here waiting for someone to address this. And then finally, after Tairn turns Amber into a pile of ash, Violet has a moment where she thinks to herself, and it's something along the lines of, no one seems to care that Amber just got killed. So I'm like, yes, okay, yes, Queen, please continue. Start getting fired up about the incessant murder and death going on at school and how it's affecting your psyche and why they're kind of forcing you to do this, to play this kind of Lord of the Flies type game. So did she follow up with that? Well, no. She may have if Xaden didn't walk by, so instead she followed up that thought with something along the lines of, Xaden's so hot, his skin-tight leather riding gear has no breathability. God, I'd love to treat the inside of those pants like my own personal salt lick after a long training session. So, yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. Once again, we're talking about stakes here. You've built these stakes at life and death, but the kids just kind of go about their schooling and their lives as if murder and watching people fall terrible deaths or fall off dragons and die doesn't affect them. It's only when Ian gets murdered at the end that Violet actually kind of shows some sort of emotion.
Well, to counter-argue that, we don't really know what their society is like before they go to this college. It could be like the 300 Society where, that baby is born and I guess she was born, it was kind of weak, but they're just killing off babies. Maybe they someone steals something, they just murder the person right in front of their face. There could be the society norm where just killing is so accepted that it's not as frowned upon. Whereas in Red Rising is your example, they all grow up pampered as golds and they don't see any of that shit happen, and then they go and they have to kill someone with their bare hands. That's a pretty big stark contrast. I don't know, we don't know if our society is like that. Maybe it is.
I'm okay with that. If that's the answer, I'm fine with that. But let's bake that into the story where, that's what, after the Tirish Rebellion or whatever, that's what it's become. Because at no point did they make it seem like death was normal. Separate but related, Violet keeps saying at Threshing, after Threshing, that she didn't think she'd be alive at this point. But to her, it doesn't seem like that much of a big deal. She never seems concerned about her mortality or necessarily overly bothered that her mother forced her into the riding quadrant and pretty much signed her death sentence. They have kind of a standoffish relationship. It's never a screw her. She basically killed me or tried to kill me. And she seems so broken up about her brother's death. So it's not he just died, whatever. I don't know. It seemed like the stakes were all questionable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hear you.
What about Stocktown?
You're only as strong as your weakest link. This seemed to be a theme throughout the book, that Violet was too small and not strong enough to be a rider, all these things. But ultimately, I'm not even sure why her size mattered at all. It doesn't seem like that was a big deal. I would get it if, to reference 300 again, hey, we're going to be in a line. If the person next to me isn't able to cover my flank, then I'm going to get killed. So I can't have this person on my line with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a person that can't hold a shield up and protect my blind side. Or let's say hey, we're going to go into the last games there, war games at the end, and the team that comes in last, everyone gets killed. They're all dead. We don't care how good you are. Oh, shit, we can't have fucking weaklings on our team then. We got to get rid of everyone that's bad. But what's the reason that someone that's not as strong, other than the hand-to-hand fighting, I guess, which you get into with some of the people, what's the reason what do you care? And then especially because the biggest thing is your dragon. So if you have a sick dragon, then what does it matter if you're not strong? The dragon makes up for that, and your powers. If you have a sick power, it doesn't really matter if you're not physically strong. So the whole weakest link, Cole, the weak out of the squad, why? It doesn't, if anything, you shouldn't kill any people until they get to the dragon stage.
Yes.
And then if they don't get matched up with the dragon, so be it. But if they get matched up with the dragon and then have a sick power, then great. That's all that matters.
Could not agree with you more. That was the one thing for me about them killing everyone at the beginning. It just seemed like lost potential. I mean, there's so many questions I have just around the whole idea around why they're allowing people to die so early on in the process. If dragons are going to kill you at Threshing, or there's a potential a dragon would just burn you at Threshing, or when you're doing that walk and dragons don't find you worthy, then sure, let that happen, because that's what you're looking for. Because what happens in situations like Violet's, where she all of a sudden, like you said, has good power and a good dragon? And then additionally, if they're trying to limit the exposure of these rebels and make sure these children of these rebel leaders can't do it all over again, why are they forcing them into the rider quadrant, which is like forcing your enemy into the special forces, like your own special forces to train. It's like, oh, let's take these kids to SEAL school and teach them everything and give them a dragon. And but yeah, I agree with you. It didn't make a lot of... The only reason... Well, I guess there's two reasons. One is if you're small, you can't mount a dragon, which is like, okay, cool. Like,
the dragon will kill you.
That makes sense. And then the dragon just kills you. And I think she was also... Violet has this... It's not explicitly said, but she has this like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which includes...
Oh, wow.
A lot of... It's just on Wikipedia. I didn't do any deep research or anything. But it's joint pain, hypermobility... I don't even know what that means, as well as like your hair getting grayer. And supposedly Rebecca Yarros has it and was like trying to bring more representation of that syndrome to...
Wait, gray hair? Weakness? I got both those things. I got this thing?
You got to go back to the doctor. I don't know if that has anything to do with like her size or whatnot, but just for the other kind of things that she has going on. So just wanted to bring that up.
That's noted. That's good to know.
My first talk down is a specific training regiment designed for your role and the conditions you may see in battle. You know, the students face a few extremely dangerous challenges throughout this book, and these challenges are designed to mimic the skills they'd need to ride a dragon. It's said a few times. So, like, the reason why you do the parapet walk is for balance and likely comfort around heights. You know, the gauntlet, which is like Ninja Warrior meets Takeshi's Castle. I'm not exactly sure how that vertical obstacle course mimics flying on the back of a dragon, but that's pretty much what they say. And I get that. That makes sense. You know, you're going to be riding a dragon. You should be doing these crazy training challenges that allow you to ride a dragon. But then Xaden just goes and crafts Violet a saddle for her dragon. You know, at first people are like, whoa, what the fuck is this? But Xaden informs everyone, hey, it's the Codex doesn't forbid it. And Violet is very easily and comfortably able to ride her dragon without the need for all of these crazy training things. So why not give everyone a saddle if it's more efficient and it allows you to keep your seat on a dragon easier? You could just give everyone a saddle. No one needs to die a horrible death.
Allows the dragons to use more of their powers, too.
Yeah, exactly. The dragons aren't focusing their power on keeping you in your seat. It's like no one rode a horse bareback into battle once saddles were invented. In general, once people got saddles, they became better riders. It seemed like the whole saddle thing was, wait, if she can do it, why doesn't everyone? And it just... I don't know. Once again, I didn't really get it.
Save a dragon, ride a cowboy, kid.
Did you have any other stock downs?
Last one, chocolate, oysters, asparagus, strawberries, stock downs. Yeah, you got it. I was going to ask if you know what they had in common.
Yeah.
All natural aphrodisiacs, but who needs them when we found the ultimate aphrodisiac thanks to this book, kid? It's murdering someone. That's all you got to do. I mean, 3/4 of this book, we get like the tension and some of like the love triangle, the typical YA stuff, and we get Xaden, and it's like, he has such great lips. Oh my goodness, he's so good. You know, all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. YA, like, love story, whatever.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
It's all innocent. We murder one person who deserved to be murdered, by the way. That Jack dude sucked.
Yeah.
And the next thing we know, it's Cinemax, and it's, I don't know what happened. It was the most hardcore, like, stuff I've ever read. Mm-hmm. It went 0 to 100. I already mentioned it quicker than Dom Toretto or any of the race car drivers here. It was pretty insane, and I guess murdering people is just what gets people going. It fuels the engine here. So that's the answer. Yeah, and the kid's name is Jack Barlow, which sounds a lot like, isn't there a singer Jack Harlow? Oh, that's what I was like, right? Why does this guy sound so familiar? And okay. Jack Harlow has a song about how he is interested in like normal dominatrix, sex. Right? He's not interested in the I don't need no whips and chains. He wants lights out missionary, penis through the pajama pants. That's normal sex, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Which is just a funny dichotomy in my mind, it was Jack Harlow the whole time, the character, and then he dies, and it all of a sudden becomes whips and chains. Yeah. So, okay. He was holding he was the prude that was holding everyone back. All right. That makes way more sense to me now. Okay. I have no problem with romance and romance novels in this idea. Like this fantasy romance stuff, fine. You know what I mean? And I get the teen angsty stuff, the yearning, all that thing. He's hot. I did, and it's probably in my loves, I don't know, but I did like how it was,
most of the stuff we see from a male's perspective. So it was nice to see it from a female's perspective and like give them some power in this area, as opposed to just like these big buxom broads who guys are all over, to have it be more of his rippling biceps and sweaty chest and stuff.
I was going to add in, too, that body standard. There was a lot of unrealistic body expectations that I was kind of pissed about, Like, what is this? She was like, then he ripped off his shirt. He had like a 12-pack. And I was like, what the hell? And she's like, I would never be attracted to some pale piece of shit Keith. I was like, what the hell is this? It was attacking me in this stuff the whole time. I don't know what was going on.
Well, two things are funny about that. One, I think the quote was along the lines of, I didn't know the gods made that many abdominals on a man or something along those lines. And two, as of the last time I saw you, you have close to a 6-pack. So slow down.
Kid, no one can see what I have because light is gleaming off me. You can't even see it.
Yeah, you'd be good in battle on the top of a dragon, because it'd be like Gandalf when he comes over the hill with the
exactly.
Just let the light, his staff, just blinding all the Uruk-hai. That's pretty much what you would do. All right, my last stock down, 50 Shades of Grey stock down. Basically, watch out, E.L. James. There's a new sheriff in town, and her name is Rebecca Yarros. So I'd like to emphasize this point, or at least give you a display of this point by playing a little game.
Is that a double entendre there?
Yeah. I'd like to play a little game we're calling 50 Shades or Fourth Wing. So how this game works is I'm going to read you a quote, and you're going to tell me, is this a quote from 50 Shades of Grey, or is this Fourth Wing? Okay?
I love this. Yep.
First quote. He takes my hand and slides it between our bodies, and my fingers curl around his length. I whimper with pure want at the feel of how hard he is for me. I always fucking want you, he groans as I squeeze.
I think that's Fourth Wing.
It is indeed Fourth Wing. Very good.
All right,
nice
thank you.
All right, here we got this one. I'll just pretend that I'm not remembering those breathy little sounds you make before you come. His teeth rake over his lower lip, and it takes all my willpower not to suck that lip into my mouth.
50 Shades on that one? Or is it Fourth Wing? I don't know. 50 Shades, I'll say.
Fourth Wing. That's Fourth Wing.
Are these all going to be Fourth Wing?
Maybe.
Also, can you read a little bit more sexier so I can get to my point, if you know what I mean? Anyway, what?
Okay, here we go. Why does he have such an unnerving effect on me? His overwhelming good looks, maybe? The way his eyes blaze at me? The way he strokes his index finger against his lower lip? I wish he'd stop doing that.
That one's definitely 50 Shades.
50 Shades.
Fascination with lips or whatever what it was, yeah.
But the last one was he'll suck that lip into my mouth, so that was fun.
I guess that's true.
All right, I got a few more, so keep going.
Okay.
How does he do this to me? He's just touching a small area of my body, and the hormones are flying.
I think that's 50 Shades.
50 Shades. Okay. I arch my back, pressing the tip of my breast against his chest. His breathing changes, and there's a war in his eyes. I'm determined to win.
Fourth Wing. That's really good writing right there.
I thought that was terrible. There's a war in his eyes. I'm determined. All I ever want to do is kiss you, even when you piss me off. So kiss me.
That's Fourth Wing, I think.
Yeah, god damn, you're getting good at this. All right. He's the worst kind of addiction, dangerous and impossible to sate. Tell me to stop, he whispers, his thumb skimming the hypersensitive skin of my inner thigh. Don't stop. I'll die if he does. Fuck, he groans, slipping his hand between my thighs.
Not great on that. That's Fourth Wing also.
Okay. This one you definitely won't get. So, an image of her shackled to my bench, peeled ginger root inserted in her ass so she can't clench her buttocks comes to mind, followed by judicious use of a strap or belt. Yeah, that would teach her to be so irresponsible.
Did you pull that from your own journal? That's weird. I think that's not either of the books. That's weird.
Ginger root's big in Fourth Wing. All right, so you did pretty good, but I think my point was made that there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah. Well played. Good research there.
Yeah, thanks. I was doing that during a meeting today, and I realized that with my glasses sometimes you can see the reflection of my computer screen. I was really hoping that I didn't realize, like, oh, crap. Favorite characters. So we got Violet Sorrengail, Xaden Ryerson, Dain Atos, Rhiannon, I don't remember her last name, Liam, Mari, maybe her sister, Mora or Mara. Did you have a favorite character?
Yeah, it has to be Xaden, obviously, here.
Really?
Just the fact that he comes in and He doesn't show mercy, which I love, because there's way too much give a mouse a cookie type shit going on here. Jack Harlow, as you call him. He's just the worst type of person. I don't understand his motives. He's actively trying to kill people that are on his side, and then he runs away when someone that's bigger than him finally shows up. So he's just a bully. So just kill him. That's the type of person you do not want in your fucking squad. So the fact that she finally kills him, and then Xaden's like, yeah, like that, you did a good job. That was great. And then he also does the same thing when the people that are cowards that attack her at night, those people all need to be killed. Xaden doesn't fucking blink. He just kills all of them. And then he also brings the girl that's responsible for opening the door, murders her. This is the type of justice we need. This is where killing should be allowed, where it's justified and it makes sense. So Xaden, I really like that about him. I was also 1,000% on his side for not telling. I didn't understand the ending, why she was mad at him still. It made zero sense to me. Like, oh, you didn't tell me this secret that ultimately I ended up revealing a tiny secret to Dain. But if I had told you the whole secret, you would have got me and everyone else killed. I gave away a tiny secret and it almost got me and everyone else killed. It's like, it didn't make any sense why he would tell her. Everything about Xaden I liked. I'm all on his team Xaden all day.
Yeah, I'm okay with Xaden. Xaden's a decent pick. The fact that you have someone that can read minds by touching you, it's like, okay, well, I can't tell you these big secrets until you're on a need-to-know basis right now, and you don't need to know this.
But she could get killed, too, if I divulged her something and she didn't tell anyone, right? Like, so, he's protecting her.
100%.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that lasted like 2 seconds. She was like, oh, I'm so mad at you. And then she's like,
at the end, she wakes up from like her coma, and like we're in Xaden's head. And he's like, oh, man, I'll do anything to make up to you. And she's like, I'm still never going to trust you. I'm like, what? I don't even get, what are you mad about? That doesn't make any sense.
I think my character of choice was Liam. I thought he was the most well-rounded of characters, where, yes, he was the big badass, but he had a tender heart and could also joke around. He had it all, really. His death was a tough one, I feel like, because I felt like he was a character that could grow in this, and he continued to be interesting. So, just overall, I thought he was my favorite.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that pick.
And when it comes to favorite characters, and this is, I hate to kind of like keep ripping on it, but they didn't flesh out any characters. The only characters they focus on was Xaden and Violet. And then outside of that, we got not really much Dain. We got a little bit of Rhiannon. Like, Rhiannon wasn't too bad. And then Liam. But this is a huge school. Like, you think about Harry Potter in the first book. You meet tons and tons of characters. But teachers were mentioned in passing. Obviously, there's dragon, between Tarn and... What's her other dragon's name?
Tinkerbell or something? I can't remember.
Yeah. Between Taryn and Tinkerbell, those characters we have as well. So I get that they are characters, but it was really a focus of these couple people, and you're trying to do some world building here. A little too much yearning and angst and brooding.
Yeah, it was pretty repetitive too. I agree.
Yeah, it's like every time they saw each other, it was like, oh, my heart stops. He's so hot. What do I do? It's like, let's get some world building. It's the first book of a 5-book series. I want to build some worlds here.
Yeah, then we can get to the full penetration later, which we love.
100%. Yeah. I'm all for it. I'm not anti by any means, not anti fantasy romance, but let's put some fantasy in that romance, or else what are we doing?
Yeah, I agree.
What'd you have for favorite part?
My favorite was the stealing of the map. I thought that's when things started to come together. They're like, all right, let's everyone uses their own powers. Fuck her mom, because her mom sucks.
Pardon me? Oh, yeah.
Her mom sucks, so going in there and screwing her over, I liked. And everyone's kind of working together, and I was like, this is what it's meant to be. This is like the X-Men coming together. Everyone has their own powers. Everyone using it for, to help out achieve a mission. I thought it was great. The ending of it sucked. It was like, she gets up in front and presents to everyone. Oh, this is sick. She's going to finally be like, yeah, you know how like everyone thought I was small and like everyone thought I never could make it here? Like, I'm here. Fuck all you guys. Fuck everyone here. And here's my mom's map, and fuck her too. Like, I thought that was going to be like what it was going to be, and I was like, holy shit, let's go. Instead, she's like, I presented the map, and I looked at Xaden, and he had a smile, and so that was the best. And I was like, that's it? What? Who gives a shit about Xaden? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I felt like that part was anticlimactic for what it should have been, because it was a cool little heist moment.
There's a big fuck you. Stick it to the man, but not really anything came of it.
Now you're talking about sticking it to men and coming of it. It's like, I'm right back in the book.
You just gave me 10 lines from 50 Shades of Grey on this book. What do you want me to do? Anyways.
Oh, I get it. The blood's rushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought the challenges were okay. The parapet was cool, like a cool intro to what the stakes are, but then the stakes didn't really matter. The gauntlet I didn't really understand. It was just like a vertical obstacle course that it was very much like Wipeout or Ninja Warrior. And it was a team thing, but it didn't really matter because each person went individually, so it wasn't like people helping each other out there. Yeah, not sure I was 100% on that. And the general hand-to-hand combat training, like the sparring stuff, I was all right with. But I guess for me, my favorite part was probably the fight at the end, which we've talked about. At that point, I felt like we finally got to the point of this thing, as opposed to just sexual interest, yearning, intercourse, postcoital feelings, and then, whatever. So, like I said, Liam's death hurt, Wyvern, this battle with these, these crazy dragons and like non-dragon things, flying beasts. There's like sorcerers and stuff. I was in for it. That's what I came for.
Yeah.
And it felt like then the stakes mattered. Everyone's in a fight and they're trying to help each other and make these calls that are either going to sacrifice innocent people or sacrifice their friends, and they have to make these calls. Like, yes, okay, I'm here for this. And it seemed like the stakes mattered then. So I just didn't get why they didn't matter before. And that part made me interested in the lore, like what's going on here, because we didn't really get any of that. What about love hate? What'd you love about Fourth Wing?
I thought it was entertaining. I already mentioned that. I don't think you've read, but Skyward, it's somewhat similar to Skyward meets like Divergent vibes. I don't know if you've read either of those.
I haven't, no.
Skyward's a Brandon Sanderson one. Just expectations-wise, I had read the first chapter, I think, and I told you we shouldn't read this book. That was like a year ago, and then we finally, I was like, I already have it downloaded. Let's just knock it out. The first chapter I thought was pretty bad. I was like, this is going to be bad. And then it gets better, I think, from there. So I thought it was, expectation-wise, I had pretty low bar. I thought it surpassed that.
Okay, yeah. One of the things I loved, and you touched on this in your book report, was the general premise is a fun one. Dragons, magic, dragon powers, rebellion, griffins, unknown dark magic, a school where, we as the reader can learn about this magical world and grow in our knowledge and powers with these characters. So I can dig that. I thought that idea, if someone came to me with that as an outline, I'd say, yes, this is going to be sweet. I think it focused a little too much on the romance aspect, really. And even in the first half of the book, the romance was just kind of like unrequited love or lust or whatever the case was. And then it got like intense where there was, extremely long passages that were just devoted to sex. And, I'm no prude by any means, but I got the point. You know what I mean? I got it.
There was more build-up, which I appreciated than 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey, by like halfway through, I was like, all right, I don't really care anymore about this. It's, you need give me some build-up.
And there's only 2 sex scenes in this book. They just happen to be super long sex scenes where I could have done with
what was super long?
I could have done with a moderately long exposition of the world,
right.
Or just growing a little characters, grow some other ancillary characters, make them grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What else did you love?
I already mentioned it too in the book report, but I do think this is like a.
Don't say intro to YA. Yeah, Jesus.
I want more people to get into fantasy because I really like fantasy, and then you can talk about it with other people. If you're a person that's more into romance, this, I think, gets you more into fantasy because it's like, all these elements. She's not putting her toe into fantasy. Like, this is like a very, very heavy fantasy element in this, which I appreciate. I think this is a good stepping stone into getting into more stuff down the road. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you were just picking up books off the like $1 thing at the library where you can buy books for $1 that are used books, and they're all like Fabio romance novels, and some guy shirtless riding around on a horse, and you picked this one up thinking you were getting romance. You got your romance, but yeah, you also get a lot of fantasy. So yeah, this would be a good gateway drug to fantasy, I guess. If
Exactly what I was trying. I'm trying to get people hooked, get them on the real thing,
I like the dragon rider relationship. I thought that was pretty well done. How they can kind of talk to each other through their thoughts while also talking to them directly, and the Tarn Violet relationship with him kind of jumping into her ideas, because she's kind of narrating the book, or it's first person, and then you think that you're reading along with her, like her thoughts, and then he jumps in because he can like follow along with what she's thinking. So I like that aspect. I thought that was creative. That was good.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I like the idea that she put this together as a diverse cast, and it makes sense. Everyone comes from different parts of the world, and they're not all a bunch of white people, which I feel like happens a lot in fantasy. It's just like,
are they different? I feel like I never read any of that stuff, or I forget immediately
like
after reading.
Description of characters.
I just build them in my own mind, and then that's who they are. So
yeah, I'm trying to do better at that in general, just because I do the same thing at the beginning of the story. So much is happening that they always give like these brief explanations of characters, and then that's the only time they do it. So you don't really build the character in your mind as opposed to like listening for that moment. So I don't know. I've been trying to do better at like actually focusing on that. What about hates?
Hate-wise, after she kills the psychopath Jack Harlow, I really did feel the book went pretty downhill. It became a lot of the things that I always talk about not liking. So, I mean, like, I think Jack Harlow deserved to die. He was a shitty person. She hated him. He tried to kill her like 10 different times. He was killing innocent people. He's killing people on his team. He's
killing younglings.
Yeah, he was a huge coward. He didn't meant to be in this world. But then, like, we get the whole her crying about it for the next 5 hours of the book. It's like,
yeah, that's the only death that mattered to her for some reason.
It's like, this is a war, you know what I mean? Like, we're about to go in, you're training, there's tons of death going on just in training. You're about to go in and have to murder people that have families, that have kids. Like, that's just what's going to have to happen. So the fact that you're crying over an absolutely horrid person, like, you're not cut out for this. You should quit, like, you should go to the scribes. I know you said you don't want to, but if you can't handle this, then you should leave.
At least cry over Dylan on the parapet.
Right, exactly. It would have been better if she used the lightning and accidentally hit one of her teammates, like hit someone she didn't want to kill. Then it's like, oh shit, you have this huge power that you can't control that you just use, and now you feel bad about it. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. I'd feel fucking terrible.
Yeah, she's like Rogue in X-Men. She kisses her boyfriend at the beginning of that movie.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
and,
yeah.
Sucks his body out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and this is a tough hate for me, but I'm going to say it. I didn't really like the Signet powers. I like the idea of having a Signet power. I think it's actually a very cool magical element, to bonding with a dragon. Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be a lot of fun in a board game, where there's like a stack of cards and you happen to pick one out and it's like that's your Signet power for the round, and you have to figure out how to work with that power, or even a video game, whatever the case is. But the reason why I don't like it perhaps in this book is it doesn't seem like there are any rules or limits to what they can be, which seems like that would be cool, but for me it's just not, because the powers are just like an obscure X-Men comic where it seems possible in this world that someone's Signet power could be like ability to open a stuck pickle jar. People have everything from being able to see into the past, to being able to steal people's powers, to shoot lightning, to change the weather, to read people's minds. It just felt there like wasn't a structure to it. It could legitimately be anything.
You kind of wanted classes for their powers almost.
Yeah, because it just seems like it's just like almost like a crutch for the author to just work in a power based on what they need. Kind of like what they do with
the Force powers in Star Wars, where they just started making shit up. They're like, oh yeah, they can survive in space. Like, what?
Exactly, and then all of a sudden someone's going to die in book 2 or 3, and someone's going to reveal their powers. They can raise someone from the dead.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're kind of already pre-hating that there's going to be some power introduced that can't be allowed.
Yeah, there's going to be some like meta power that just makes the whole thing pointless.
No, I get that. I would say that I like it when there's like a much more opportunity to fill in the blanks, and it was based off your personality, which I thought was a cool element of like, well, this person's, wants to know everything, so they're a mind reader or whatever it is, and this person wants to do this.
Personality and, like, the strength of your dragon. Like, if you have a stronger dragon, you're going to have a stronger power.
I'm not going to give it a hate yet. I think I get what you're saying, that it eventually could be, well, we're just going to open up Pandora's box and anything can be power.
It could be a cop-out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and I want it to be, if there is that, I want there to be the other side of the coin where someone has totally useless powers. Like, extremely useless.
Yeah, okay.
Like, pretty much their magic power that they keep talking about, which is people's ability to open doors that they get once they bond with their dragon. It's like, you can unlock a door? Like, cool. What? Any other hates for you?
There's more whining stuff, but and I'm whining, which is on brand.
Yeah, whinging.
When she finally sees her sister, she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here. This is crazy." And their sister's like, "Well, I got to go off to battle." And she's like, "No." What do you think she's been doing this whole time? She gets this all of a sudden like surge of, "I need to go out there, and everyone else on my team and me, who cares about us? We need to go help." It's like, do your job. That's not your job. Know your role. Do your job.
You're a student. There's a battle going
right.
on. You're not going to save anyone. Get out of here. Do what you need to get done. If anything, you're a hindrance.
Yeah.
You know?
But this is like her whole character, which I didn't really like a lot of times. At a certain point, she's like, I'm the weakest person and no one thinks I can do it. And I'm so fragile and all these things, but I'll prove them wrong. And then the next second, she's like, I don't need protection. I'm the strongest person here and no one needs to help me. And then the next thing, she's like, I don't want to kill anyone. That's never what it was like. Well, if you're gonna fight, and you're help your sister, you're just gonna go cut people with knives on the shoulders. You can't have it every single way.
For me, my last hate is some of the dialogue and in general the writing. It just wasn't great. Some of the things that were said, I was like, what?
We're coming off two very well-written books, too, or this new book, too. Yeah, so.
Xaden says to her, like, I can't stand the thought of you being cold. It's like, what? She was just like, I'm cold. He's like, I can't stand the thought of you being cold. It's like, well,
that's chivalrous, sir. How dare you?
It read like fan fiction to me, which is funny because, like, the whole E.L. James, corollary. But, yeah, it just kind of read like someone who was writing fan fiction for something and like through that came up with the story. And I'm not trying to throw shade Xaden's power at Rebecca Yarros because I couldn't do it, but that's why it's like YA writing. Like this is like writing for a kid, but then there's clits involved. So I got some listener mail because it came in via our email.
You've got mail.
It's from Care in Cape Cod. It says, apologies for the sick crying baby in the background of the latest episode. Regardless or irregardless, as Dylan would say. Appreciate that. Love the episode and love the book. This is about All the Colors of the Dark. The show Dylan was referencing but couldn't remember was called America's Most Wanted. Yes, America's Most Wanted. That's the show where they would go on every night and talk about people that had like abducted kids and stuff like that. It was like Sunday primetime television.
Cop, right? Like a former cop?
No, it was... I don't know if he was a cop, but his kid was abducted and I think murdered. And so then he like made that his life's passion or something. But yeah, you know the guy. If you saw his face, you'd be like, oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll blame the sound engineer for the baby crying, which is me. So
yeah, don't do that. But I want to use the other listener mail section to gives a shout out to a boy named Doom Train on Reddit, who I was just kind of like looking up people's like normal people's reviews and not these terrible Goodreads reviews. And I thought his, or I assume it's his because it's a boy named, was pretty on point. He says, I was expecting Harry Potter meets Game of Thrones. What I got was an oddly voiced romance novel where someone occasionally dies as an aside, but where there's 2 sex scenes that last dozens of pages. 25% of the book is, oh boy, these boys sure are sexy. I don't know if I can stop myself. And then they finally fuck, and the last 50% of the book is 80. There's a lot of percentages going on here, but the last 50% of the book is 85%. Oh my God, I just wish you were inside me again, but I can't give in. And 50% dragons doing cool shit. Beyond that, it's just not a very well-written book. It's not Twilight tier bad writing, but it's not good either. Just very bland. Tropes galore. Everything is obviously foreshadowed ahead of time, so there's not many surprises. Characters lack individuality or unique voice to separate them from each other, which makes the dialogue feel even more bland than it already is. The world itself feels bland and indistinct. And I completely agree with you on the rest of your criticism. I was somebody else, but...
I mean, Harry Potter meets Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Is this guy high?
I think there's a couple things. There's a couple things
that?
Off with that.
Yeah, let me take the best book series ever and match it with the best fantasy book series ever, and that's what I'm expecting as the child.
Yeah, I guess for context, it was about the blurb on the back of the book, what the blurb says,
who cares?
And if you read that, it's like, oh, this is going to be crazy fantasy with dragons and stuff, and it's only like love or lovers is only mentioned once, and like that's the focus of it. So obviously saying it's Game of Thrones, like the only thing that attaches it to Game of Thrones is dragons. So like that's just not fair. Harry Potter, I would also assume there's a school, like you get some of that, and occasionally dies is not a thing. People are dying all the time. I understood where he was coming from, but it was a little excessive. It was a bit much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Cast the movie. So this is getting adapted into a TV series. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. The cast is not announced. Feel like there's only a couple people we could potentially be casting. Did you have any potentials here?
Yep. For Violet, I went Jenna Ortega from Wednesday. She's like very petite.
Oh,
small.
yeah.
Feel like she could have the fire behind the eyes. So yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
I had for Violet, I had Daphne Keene, which I guess this is just turning into an X-Men episode because she is the little girl in Logan.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah, and she's small-ish still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. She's smaller, but we already know that she can do the badass stuff because she was crazy as a kid in Logan.
Yeah,
I saw her in something recently that she was good in as well. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I liked her in that too. Nice. Did you have someone for Xaden?
Yeah, I had, which I think is a sleeper pick here, is Aaron Pierre. I just saw him in Rebel Ridge. He's a very attractive person.
Dreamy.
Yeah, I didn't know to say that, but he looks a little dreamy. Older, but I think he's supposed
30.
to be older, Xaden is, so I think that's okay. Keep on looking like young actors, and then they're like, yeah, this guy, he's 39. I'm like, all right, well.
Yeah, I had a tough time with that as well, because, you have to cast someone who's younger, presumably.
And he's supposed to be jacked. I looked up shirtless pictures of all these guys, obviously. I just had to do the research, so.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I had Caleb McLaughlin, who's the kid from Stranger Things that is now more grown up, but it was more of just like a age, because this is going to be for 5 seasons, and he's supposed to be younger, but I kind of forgot, and I'm not throwing shade at Caleb here, but I forgot about the muscly factor that obviously Xaden has to have. So
get him on a steroid regimen. I mean, we can talk
I feel like we can figure it out.
Yeah.
I feel like we could figure it out. But I think your pick's better. So I'll go with either of our Violet picks I'd be cool with, but I think your Xaden pick is better. Sorry, Caleb. I'm not trying to throw shade. The guy you said is dreamy eyes, too.
I also casted Ao, the girl from Yes Chef, Ao Edebiri, as Rachel. Yeah. I needed a comic relief. She's actually a comic.
Who's Rachel?
What's her name? What's her friend's name? Best friend?
You're talking about Rhiannon?
Yeah, sorry. That's how I process names.
Rachel.
Yeah.
She's the Jewish Rhiannon?
I don't know. Anyways, yeah, but I thought she was big. And she's Massachusetts native, so I needed to throw her in there.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. All right. Well, how many buddies you give this out of 4 buddies?
I'm going to give it, for what it is, I think I also went in thinking way, way worse. So I'm going to give it 2.25. I don't think it's that bad. I think you're going to go way below me, but I think, would I recommend it to anyone? Probably not. But
your mom?
Absolutely not. I understand why it's popular. That's what I'll say about it. So I'm not going to trash it too much more.
Yeah, I mean, my ranking is a personal ranking. It's not, this is for, like I said, the book's super popular. So I'm sure there's tons of people that this is right up their alley. It's just not up my alley. I thought the writing was terrible. If you thought this was the next Dickens, then I think you're probably not that smart, even though I'm not that smart. So that means you're really not smart. But I'd give it a 1.5.
If I can just get through it and I'm not angry at the end, then I think it deserves at least a 2. So
yeah, I also think that we've started a lot of trilogies on this podcast, or multi-book reads, and we haven't finished many of them. I was trying to think back to all of the ones that we've started and haven't finished. For the most part, we didn't finish those because we didn't like them. It was just like we were moving on to something else.
Yeah.
But I would rather move on with every single one of those series before I read the second book in this one. When you texted me, you're like, let's go straight into the second one. I wanted to be like, are you high? Or did all the blood rush from your big brain to your little brain because you're in the middle of a sex scene? Because this book was just not.
Okay. I appreciate you telling me how you really feel at the end here. I really weren't as angry as I thought you would come off if you hated it that much. But all right.
I didn't hate it. Like I said, I just think the premise was there. There's a lot of stuff that was there, but I would rather finish The Blade itself or that other fantasy one where the guy's fighting demons in his head or whatever that one is. I'd rather do that. I'd rather read Dune Messiah, obviously. There's so many other ones I would rather continue out of trilogies than this one.
Like I said, I'd rather be apathetic to something than to be hated. So that's where I'm at. I told you I'm apathetic. So you know, is that the word? Am I using that right?
Fair enough. I don't know. Maybe we'll come back to this series later.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's so popular that I feel like
we'll probably get a great response to
disservice.
this pod.
Yeah, people will just think we suck, but that's fine because we do.
Yeah,
All right, Keith, what do we got coming up next?
Next, we have a nice light reading again. Demon Copperhead
It's too real.
by Barbara Kingsolver?
Yeah.
Kingsolver? I don't know. Sorry. So that's coming up next. Nice light reading. Only 20 hours of making you feel bad about yourself and everything that's in the world. Yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, so we got Demon Copperhead coming up next. So also super popular, and we'll see how we feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a little bit better. We're switching genres, switching back
Yeah.
and forth, changing genres, keeping people on their feet. I like it. Keeping ourselves on our feet.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Keith. Well, thanks for doing Fourth Wing.
Oh, thank you. I think you said you hated it so much, so I appreciate it.
I didn't hate it so much. It just, I expected more. I burned
one of my credits on it. We had to do it, so sorry.
Yeah,
sorry
I'm just disappointed. You know,
You're not upset with me. I'm just disappointed.
I didn't burn a credit. I had it on Libby, so
I got credits to burn, kid. I have piss credits at this point.
I got so many credits to burn. I actually just put Audible on pause for 90 days, which you can do every year, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's good to know. I should probably do that.
I was like, I got to put this thing on pause because I'm just racking up credits here. Okay, cool. Well, I'll catch you for Demon Copperhead.
Alrighty.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye now.